This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast available, of course, in a few hours' time. Many of you downloaded the one from last Friday, where we were doing a 5-hour show, which we will be doing this Friday and every Friday from now on. Mr. Parry, a very good morning to you. Why are you standing up?
I'm standing up, Mike, because I've finally found the secret of longer life.
Have you?
I've been researching this, I'm not joking, for about a year now. No, I've been sort of... But today, a definitive document was published, and... It is absolutely clear that for every hour you sit down, you lose 2 hours of your life.
Really?
Yeah. If you stand up, you will live a lot longer.
So that means if I do a 5-hour show sitting down,
you're losing 10 hours of your life.
10 hours of my life every single night. I should start charging more money to Talk Sport.
Research is now discovering that rates of cancer and heart disease and all that are massively more prevalent in people who spend their days sitting down. So, for instance, bus drivers, lorry drivers, people like that, that's not quite so bad because their mind is alert all the time to things going on around
but they're not
them.
doing any... Presumably it's to do with exercise,
Yeah,
but
mental exercise is as good as physical exercise. And the point is, but somebody just sitting there looking at a screen all day, you've got big problems.
No.
And you sitting there facing that microphone all night, you've got big problems. Now, if you notice...
And what about if I spend the rest of the time lying down, which is what I do during the day?
Well, you've got an even bigger problem, but that's part of the sort of sleep and alert cycle. Now, if you look, you see I'm standing on one leg, okay?
Yes, you are, yeah.
Now,
well, you're wavering about. You can't actually stand on one leg,
well, I've got dodgy knee, obviously.
We never did give you that test, actually, because there was a test that you were supposed to do, which was going to judge how long you were going to live. One of them was, if you shut your eyes, could you then stand on one leg?
Yeah, well, I am standing on one leg at the moment. Now, the point is, that makes it even better. But, I mean, this is an absolutely clinical piece of research, right? For the next week, I'm going to do everything standing up. I'm going to watch telly standing up. I'm going to eat standing up. If I have a drink with you in a bar, I will stand at the bar. You can sit down if you want.
I much prefer standing, actually, at a bar.
Well, yeah, I do as well. But everything I do is standing. The only thing that's quite difficult to do standing up is to use your laptop.
Yeah.
Because it means you've got to find a surface at eye level, if you see what I mean.
Well, you could get one of those things that people get when they go on the stationary bike, and you could just have a little shelf, couldn't you? And you could just have your laptop on the shelf.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
It's not the biggest problem.
But the point is, I'm doing this show standing up because I have now found that this is an absolutely bona fide clinical research document. You will live longer if you stand up.
Yeah, but I mean, it's too late for you, isn't it? I mean, because you're already getting up there to whatever it is, 60 or whatever. I mean, you've only got about another 4 or 5 years left, haven't you?
No, they're ridiculous. I mean, the old tickers, no doubt about it, has done well to survive the last decade, okay? It's been a battle against, the possibility of imminent death.
Imminent death. What are you looking forward to? Imminent death.
On a sort of regular basis.
Take a picture of you.
But because you've got to have the mental attitude, right, towards being positive about it all, that's what's got me through. Right. And that's what will get me through this one as well.
No, you're not going to spend 5 hours standing up on a Thursday night.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I find it quite disconcerting, because, when I started working in radio, I used to do my show standing up.
Why?
Because I found it easier to project my voice that way.
Really?
It took me a while to learn how to do it
don't worry
sitting
about
down.
projecting your voice, Mike. Nobody's that bothered.
Yeah, I think people are very, very interested in what I have to say, contrary to what you may think.
I think so.
But people used to be quite unnerved by it. I remember George Osborne came into the studio to be interviewed. He hated the idea that I was standing and he was sitting.
Well, you should have put your guest at ease by sitting down there.
Well, I told him I'm terribly sorry. I said I'm very sorry, but I do all my shows standing up.
Yeah.
Same with a couple of other politicians. They didn't like it at all. And I must admit, looking at you standing up, although because you're not that tall, it doesn't really matter so much, because your height is not really an issue.
What a funny joke. I'm rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, well, that might be the next thing.
Yeah.
But I can't have you standing for 5 hours, or else I'm going to have to do it.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes. I tell you, used to do that. Tom Watt, remember the EastEnders actor? He worked for TalkSport for a while. He always did his... Tom Watts, is it?
Tom Watts, I don't know.
Tom what?
Tom Waits, I've heard of.
No, Tom Watts. He was an actor in EastEnders. Anyway, he worked. He's a big Arsenal fan. He worked there, and he was the first presenter I ever saw doing a show standing up. But this isn't for reasons of projecting my voice. My voice doesn't need projection.
No.
I mean, my voice is out there. It's okay. People can... In fact, funny enough, I entered a sports quiz over the weekend.
Did you?
I was down with the family.
How'd you do? I hope you did better than you do on the quizzes on this show.
Well, it was in one of these pubs on a Sunday night, but I had to abandon it.
Pub quiz, they call that.
Pub quiz, that's right, a pub quiz. Yeah, actually, it wasn't sport. I just remembered it's all about Romans and things. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but anyway, in the end, I had to abandon it because an obsessed fan wouldn't leave my table.
Really?
No, and I was with my brother-in-law and
you should be happy about that, shouldn't you?
Well, he wouldn't go away. The point is, he kept trying to give us the questions, and I said, look, I'm sorry, but I don't need your help, and I don't want you sitting there. He said, why not? It's a spare seat. I said, well, you're invading our privacy. And, this is a private table.
That's not very nice of you.
Well, what was I supposed to do? This guy was a stranger. I'd never seen him before in my life. And
he's a fan. You're supposed to entertain him, aren't you?
But he wanted to talk to me all the time, and I was trying to discuss the answers with, the other members of my party, and the guy simply wouldn't go away. And in the end, I said, look, I'm sorry, but you are so disturbing me. I'm worried that you're, a little bit, eccentric or something. I'm leaving. And I thought he would then say...
he might be listening now.
Well, he might be.
Did he say he was listening, a fan of the show overnight?
Yeah, well, he just said he was a big TalkSport fan. And I thought he would then, at that point, withdraw and say, I'm really sorry to bother you. He wouldn't. So I said, come on, I'm going. So I had to leave.
You had to leave. So how many, Brad, you got right at that point?
Oh, about half of them, because I'd only done half the questions, but I got a lot of them right. They start off with all these daft picture questions. What there's a picture of, and it's from a very strange angle, and all that kind of stuff. And then all these mad mental challenges, you know what I mean?
Mental arithmetic.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. They're easy for me. And then...
maybe we should give you a mental arithmetic test on Thursday.
Anytime you like. You're
an expert in it, by any chance.
In what?
Mental arithmetic.
Well, from the age of about 5, whenever my dad took me to school in the car, he would fire mathematical puzzles at me on a like a machine gun basis, and my razor sharp brain was
like a times table, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. 9 times 7, 11 times 14.
What is 9 times 7?
64.
63, isn't it?
63, that's right, yeah, 63, yeah. But I very rarely got one wrong. You just keep firing them back all the time.
Obviously a bit out of practice.
No, not out of practice at all, mate. Anyway, look, you put that together with the fact that and the other thing is, if you stand up for maybe 2 weeks, you could lose a stone. Literally lose a stone.
Really?
Yeah, because your body is...
What, you mean stand up for the whole time for 2 weeks?
Yes.
What about sleeping? You don't sleep standing up.
No, of course you don't sleep standing up. That's, your prostate then. But sitting down is the problem, because the body's bent into an S shape, right?
Yeah.
And that compounds your organs and all kinds of things and does your back in.
Well, it depends on how your posture
You're
is
always
when
moaning about your back.
I never moan about my back.
You always moan about your back.
I've never moaned about my back ever.
And by the way, smoking and sitting down is the very worst thing, because all that gunge and filth...
I don't smoke sitting down.
I know, but you smoke after you've sat down, you've taken all that filth and gunge into your lungs, you sit down, your lungs suddenly settle, all the filth and dirt in your lungs settles, goes right to the bottom of your lungs, and you'll never get rid of it. If you gave up smoking tomorrow, you would still have nicotine traces in your toes in 10 years' time.
In my toes?
In your toes.
Well, I know. It's a well-known fact that
it gets right through your system.
And on the odd occasion that I have given up, it takes usually about 6 days for the smoking.
On the odd occasion when you've given up?
Yeah, on the odd occasion I've given up.
You've never given up.
I gave up twice.
Rubbish.
Once, actually, I was in Bosnia, which really was a stupid idea. Yeah. I found myself in the middle of a war zone where cigarettes were about 10p a packet.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'd given up.
Yeah.
Incredible. Funny. I know that that's a story that doesn't interest you because it's not about you. Because you're adopting that tone again where you go, oh, yeah. Anyway, let's talk more about me.
No, not at all.
People have noticed it, People have started pointing it out on Twitter.
I know what you're talking about.
You don't actually care about anything as long as it's not to do with you.
All I was going to say to you was, I did a war in the Middle East once, in one of the Israeli invasions or somewhere, and the only thing that ever survived the commercial world of the country that they were invading was the cigarette trade.
Right.
And you were driving past guys with tables.
Down USA, but would you like some Marlboros?
Exactly. Down USA, down every day. Oh, very nice malt. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, tens of thousands of cigarettes.
Morris, a great man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now listen, we're meant to be talking about Lewis Hamilton.
Well, certainly are. I want to talk about that
because we want to talk about driving. Because my contention is there's only 2 reasons you're supporting Lewis Hamilton. One, because he's British.
Yes.
And 2, because you drive a Mercedes. Although some people have pointed out that your Mercedes is probably more of a smart car.
No, it's not. Don't be silly. It's it's a great car.
It's actually a very nice car. I can attest to that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I am I'm on the side of justice here, and justice must be born and seen to be born by those responsible for the Mercedes team. And the problem is there is no firm smack of leadership. Listen to this. What's that? What's that?
That's you banging on the table.
That's the firm smack of leadership, and you need the firm smack of leadership in any organisation to make it work properly. There is no leadership at Mercedes, as a result of which there is chaos. Chaos is ruling. I mean, for instance, I'm going to prove to you that this is a Germanic problem, because when Lewis Hamilton was in the same team as Jenson Button, 2 world champions, which Rosberg so far is not, okay, they didn't fall out.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't. They never fell out. And
They were
amazing.
always on the brink of falling out. If they didn't actually fall out,
it was amazing. How many years?
Lewis Hamilton is incapable of having any kind of relationship which is a good
rubbish,
one with any of his fellow drivers.
He's just the most competitive man on earth, and that's what you've got to be if you want to be a true champion. I could have been a racing driver, and it would have been fantastic, because when I had some of these fantastic tests taken when I was about 19 or 20, it was proven that my thought pattern linked to my physical reaction meant I'm very nearly as fast as the speed of light. And very nearly as fast as the speed of light.
Well, you drive fast, that's true.
No. And so what I'm saying is, I'm the sort of guy who's got those sort of reactions, so I know the sort of pain that Hamilton's going through, not being recognised for what he is. And I can prove to you that in the end he will out. But I don't understand how Rosberg can commit the sort of crime he committed, a racing crime, a driving crime.
Well, nobody else agrees with that.
Well, of course they do. Well, Jenson Button does, for instance. Jenson Button is saying tonight in a statement. No, he says that he can't see how anybody could defend Rosberg's actions, and I totally agree, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
We'll find out next on Talk Sport with the two mics. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He, of course, the one standing up is Mike Porky Parry. He says it's going to knock hours off his life. It hardly seems worth it, really, does it?
No, knocks hours off your life if you sit down. This gives you more hours.
Well, effectively, it's going to lengthen your life.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
So by standing here for 1 hour, you're going to lengthen your life by 1 hour.
Absolutely, because the weight,
kind of a pointless activity.
The weight of my frame is not sort of bowed by me sitting down and compressing my organs like my heart, my liver, and the kidneys and all that.
Well, your heart's hardly there, really, is it?
Well, it's not much of it is there. That's absolutely right. But what's left, I have to preserve even more carefully than you have to preserve your heart, which you're destroying, of course, with cigarettes.
Yeah, well, that's entirely my affair.
No, of course it is. Of course it's your affair.
Let me direct people to our new Twitter
with
address.
your mother of your children and your 2 boys. Of course it's your affair. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
once
be
again,
responsible.
poking your nose into places where it does not belong.
I'm trying to help.
At the two mics is the address that we've set up, where you can find all sorts of interesting information, all sorts of pictures as well. And you were just asking me ridiculously about the profile picture on there, because people have been noting how short you are in the picture and how much shorter you are than me. I have not doctored it.
You have doctored the picture.
It is a bona fide picture that we posed for when we were doing the mid-morning show a few years ago, and it was taken by a professional photographer, and that's the difference in our heights. It's simple as that.
Let me have a look at that again, please.
I have not doctored the picture.
That is utter rubbish.
I have not doctored it. You're 5'5", something like that.
I am not. I'm 5'8" and 3/4, and this shows me to be about 4 inches shorter than you. Well, you're not over 6 foot.
No, I'm 5 foot 10.5.
Well, yeah. Well, in that case, there's only an inch between us, and this shows about 3 inches. Somebody's done something.
Nobody's
to this picture.
done anything to it.
Yes, they have.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get Dave, the producer, to take a picture of us live right here in the next break.
Yeah, all right.
We'll see what the difference is in height. You're not wearing those Cuban-heeled shoes, are you?
No, I'm not wearing Cuban-heeled heels. Are you?
No, I'm not wearing. I'm wearing a pair of Chelsea boots. Actually.
Yeah, well, they've got heels on them, so
I've not got heels.
Yes, I have. I've got something.
Anyway, let's talk about Lewis Hamilton.
The point is it any mystery to you that this is a German team, Mercedes, probably the most famous German marque in the world, right? And a German driver.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, can't you see the conspiracy that's going on here?
There is no conspiracy. Rosberg is leading the Drivers' Championship, right? Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken, only a few weeks ago in another Grand Prix refused to get out of the way to let him go forward.
He's a racing driver, and racing drivers are supposed to race for the line ahead of everybody else.
But they're also supposed to have a kind of team ethic, aren't they?
There shouldn't be any team orders when you've got 2 great drivers.
Then what's he complaining about?
And one of those drivers, Lewis Hamilton's a former world champion, so he deserves the upper hand.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the upper hand.
Well, he should have.
He's not the guy with the most points.
Well, that doesn't matter. That's only because there've been
They went into the second half of the season with Hamilton 11 points behind. He's now 29 points behind.
But
and he drives very aggressively, and as a result of that, he quite often gets involved in collisions.
Well, in Monaco, he was shafted by his teammates who wouldn't get out of the way and crashed his car, stopped him from qualifying.
But why does he always have these problems? That's what I'm asking you.
He has these problems because he is, as you say, super competitive. But as I pointed out already, already. He didn't have any problems with Button and McLaren because they're two Britishers, and we abide by British rules and ethics, and the ethics of it are to be competitive, but not to cheat. Now,
well, I don't think Rosberg has cheated. If Rosberg had done something deliberately that was wrong...
Well, don't you think he deliberately sliced the back wheel of Hamilton's car?
I think it was an accident.
Didn't look like an accident
to be honest,
people.
If it wasn't an accident, then I'd be happy, because I think somebody needs to teach Lewis Hamilton a lesson.
Toto Wolff, who's one of the team leaders at Mercedes, branded the incident absolutely unacceptable. Derek Warwick, former racing driver, said today, quotes, "What was stupid or silly of Nico was that he did it on the second lap of a Grand Prix. That is totally unacceptable." Rosberg, in his defence, is trying to say it was an accidental collision. In a Facebook post, he said, "I regretted that Lewis and myself touched, but I see it as a racing incident just as the steward did." Well, I'm sorry,
well,
but
the steward doesn't see it as anything other than an incident. That's it.
I'm sorry, millions of people around the world saw that as a deliberate attempt. I mean, to go around crashing into somebody else's car.
No, millions of people in this country who are like you.
It's not unknown.
Who listen to this from Derek in Pencoed, who says this is no big deal that Porky's going to stand for the rest of the show and the 5 hours on Thursday. I stand for at least 12 hours a day working as a cleaner, and I'm not surprised he is defending Hamilton. He thinks the English are never in the wrong. And the only people who are getting worked up about this are English Lewis Hamilton fans. Nobody else is bothered about Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, they are.
People in the rest of the Formula One world say, let Lewis Hamilton, live and die by the sword. This is the way he drives, and sometimes he's going to get the rough end of the stick.
This is terrible injustice, and if you allow this injustice to happen, then the Corinthian spirit of sport is lost forever.
Oh, come on. There is no Corinthian spirit of sport.
Well, it should be.
You're one of those people that thinks that footballers don't dive then and shouldn't, pretend it's their throw-in when it really is.
No, I don't think that at all. I think footballers do dive, and I'm highly critical of footballers who do dive.
Yeah, but that's the Corinthian spirit, is it?
But driving your car deliberately into another car, particularly if it's a teammate's car, to try and knacker his chances and accelerate yours...
to teach him a lesson.
Well, there you go. 1 minute you're saying it was an accident, and the next minute you're justifying it by saying...
I'm saying it was an accident. I'm saying it was an accident.
Well, why did you just repeat the mantra to teach him a lesson?
The mantra comes from Lewis Hamilton, who's made that up.
Because
Rosberg
you just repeated it like as though you believe it.
No, because I wish it had happened that way.
Yeah,
that's
you wish
what
it happened, do you?
If you listen to what I actually said, I said that I think Rosberg should teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rosberg has now said, well, I wasn't doing that, so I didn't do it deliberately, but I wish he had.
Yeah, well...
I'm not very convinced by your argument,
to me, this is the ultimate, towels on sun lounges incident.
So
between the nature of the British and the nature of the Teutonic mind.
Really?
Yes.
Well, what do you think should happen then? What would be your sort of resolution to this problem?
I think Rosberg should be banned from the next two races.
What, by Mercedes?
Well, if not by Mercedes, then by the racing fraternity.
They won't do that because they've said he hasn't done anything wrong.
Well, yeah, but that's because they think he's going to win the world championship, so they don't want to upset the future world champion. See, that again is wrong. That is a complete and terrible misjudgment in my view, and I know about these things. Okay.
If it wasn't Lewis Hamilton we were talking about, you wouldn't care what Rosberg was doing, would you?
Yes, I would.
You're being blinded by chauvinism.
I don't like
as ever.
What's chauvinism?
Chauvinism is belief in your own country. It's not male chauvinism, if that's what you're confusing it with. Chauvinism is a kind of bias for your own country.
No, I'm on the side of right or wrong. It is actually
Well, you're on the
irrelevant.
wrong side.
No, it's irrelevant to me whether Lewis Hamilton is British or not, or whether Rosberg is German or not. What I'm saying is, it just so happens that Lewis Hamilton is British.
You just said that it was indicative of the situation.
Is British, and Rosberg is German.
Yeah.
And therefore, I say to you again, the respective natures of those two nationalities of people has a lot to do with this particular incident,
well,
okay?
Both of them are employed by Mercedes as a team.
You were telling me about the Russians last week in Turkey,
who
suddenly bust in front of you at the food queue and nick your omelette, okay? Yeah, excuse me. Now, this is the same sort of thing. This is a nicking omelette moment for Rosberg in front of Hamilton. It's outrageous that you can, literally torpedo a teammate like that to try and reduce his chances of overtaking you fairly and squarely, which is exactly what happened.
All right, well, let's look at it from a wider perspective. The problem for Lewis Hamilton is that wherever he is, there's always a problem, whether it's with Jenson Button...
That's because he's super competitive.
Whether it's with Alonso, whether it's with whoever it is that he's in a team with or in a race with. He seems to attract more controversy and more problems than any other race driver at the moment. And I think that has more to do with him than it has to do with everybody else.
Yeah, well, I don't. I think and the situation is that because he's so highly charged, right, people now...
Well, why is he so highly charged?
Because he's very competitive.
Well, what are you saying the rest of them aren't competitive?
So people are... What they're doing is they're sort of lighting Hamilton's fuse and wait for him to blow up.
Right.
It's a psychological aim. The other thing is...
Well, it doesn't take
the
much,
other thing is, Rosberg, in my view, is incredibly jealous of Lewis Hamilton for having one of the world's most beautiful women as his girlfriend. Now that's a thing that happens in motor racing.
Yeah.
Intense jealousy between the drivers over how good looking their girlfriends are. It's the girlfriends are a beauty parade every time they get down to the pit lane and all that kind of stuff, okay? And it's obvious that Hamilton's got the best looking girlfriend of all the Formula One drivers, and therefore...
I'm not sure if that's true.
Of course it is. Of course it is true. You name me a better looking girl.
You don't know any of the other girlfriends, do you?
Well, I would if they were that
They've
beautiful.
all got gorgeous, beautiful girlfriends.
I would if they were that beautiful that they were suddenly, in the papers every day, but they're not. The only one who is Nicole Scherzinger.
Right.
Or Nicola Scherzinger. What's her name?
Yeah, she's from the Pussycat Dolls.
That's right, and she's a beautiful woman.
So do you think Rosberg should get out of the way because he's got a nice girlfriend?
No, what I'm saying is, I'm sure that part of the malice and envy which is driving, in my opinion, is driving Rosberg's attitude towards his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, is a lot to do with the fact that Nicola Scherzinger is one of the world's most beautiful women and happens to hang off Lewis Hamilton's arm. And I don't mean that in a detrimental way at all about, the man-woman relationship. No.
Very sexist way of describing it.
No, it's not sexist. That's what I've just said. I'm not being sexist there. What I'm saying is, as a couple, they look fantastic together, and that is bound to create envy amongst the Formula One motor racing ranks, and that's been taken out on the track, and it's an outrage, a disgrace, and shouldn't be allowed to happen.
You don't think it's got anything to do with the fact that Hamilton refused to obey team orders and let him pass?
Racing is all about getting to the checkered flag first, and there shouldn't be team orders to stop anybody doing that. I mean, that is another outrage, because what that does is that completely gerrymanders a sport. If a footballer's being told, look, every time you get the ball in the 6-yard area, don't shoot for goal, pass it to your teammate, let him score, because we want him to be the record goal scorer in the Premier League this season, that would be gerrymandering a game, and it wouldn't be allowed. And neither should the idea of team orders be allowed in Formula One. I know these things, and that is the position.
I think it's maybe time for you to sit down. We'll take a picture shortly to show how short Mr. Parry is compared to my tallness. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sports Extra Time. We are the two Mikes, Mike Parry and Mike Graham. Coming up tonight, of course, it's the MK Dons against Manchester United in the Capital One Cup. That's a bit of a come down for Manchester United, isn't it? And Louis van Gaal. Sorry, am I disturbing you in some way?
No, that's not a come down at all. What about it a come down?
Well, Manchester United playing in this early round of the Capital One Cup.
Last time it was in 1995 that they played in the second round.
Long time ago.
And the amazing thing is, maybe I just don't understand how that could have happened, because I know it happened because they
didn't finish high enough in the league.
Well, yeah, but I don't get that, because they finished second in the league that year. 95, right?
Yeah.
They lost the FA Cup to Everton 1-0.
Yeah.
Because I was there, obviously. That's the last time we won the FA Cup. Gerrard was the manager. But do you remember, it was a season when Kenny Dalglish won the title with Blackburn, who were playing at Liverpool, but West Ham and Manchester United were playing in the other game, and West Ham United and Manchester United drew, which gave Blackburn the title by 1 point, I think.
I don't remember.
Well, I do. So if they finished second, why were they in the early rounds of the League Cup?
No,
I don't understand that. But anyway, the point is, apparently that
What
was
is the point?
Well, that was the last time they played that early in the Cup. Now, the point is this time, to show that where the world of football has changed, is that Manchester United are playing in this round of the Cup, but my team, Everton, aren't. You see what I mean? So, I mean...
We should talk a bit about your team, Everton, because do you know, and I know we pointed this out over the weekend, that my prediction for the score at the weekend was what?
Well, OK, so you predicted a draw, but I mean...
No, I didn't just predict a draw.
That's sitting on the fence.
I predicted
that's on the fence.
No, hang on, I predicted 2-2.
Yeah, but that's only because...
the scoreline precisely correct.
I said 3-1, and you said, 2 goals, eh? So all you did was divvy up
No, I said
goals
I thought there would be a draw.
And dish them out separately. Anyway, it shouldn't have been 2-2. With 83 minutes gone, Everton were leading 2-0. Should have been 3-0.
Well, they let it go, didn't they?
Yeah, let it go, I'm afraid.
Very
but listen, when you think about it, that's a really good start to the season. To draw away at Leicester, who, it was their first time in the Premier League for, many, many years. And then to entertain Arsenal and play so well against them, even though we didn't secure the points. That's a really good start. And we've got Chelsea at home on Saturday, not a live game here on TalkSport. Yeah, 5:30 kickoff. So that's absolutely fantastic. But the interesting thing about tonight with Mr. Balotelli.
Yeah.
Why
did you see him sitting in the crowd?
Well, not only did I see him sitting in the crowd, this is my point. I saw him downstairs in the tunnel, hugging and greeting all his ex-Manchester City teammates. Sorry, it's escaped his attention. He's just signed for Liverpool. Yeah. He's a Liverpool player. What on earth is he doing down in the tunnel with all his City mates?
He hasn't seen them for a long time.
Well, but it's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. If you're now a Liverpool player, what on earth are you doing fraternising and socialising with the enemy before a game?
Well,
it's
perhaps it's part of the Corinthian spirit of sport.
Why are you trying to defend this situation? Don't you understand what I'm trying to say?
Well, I think Mario Balotelli is a bit of an eccentric, right?
He's obviously
a guy. He's obviously a guy that when he plays for your team, he seems to get on with most of the players. He doesn't seem to get on with many of the managers, but he seems to get on with most of the players. And if you've been somewhere, it's a bit like if you were at a situation where you'd worked, say for example at the Daily Express, as you did for a long time. You went back there when you'd gone to work for another paper. You wouldn't have just shunned them.
Yeah, but we don't fight each other every day in mortal combat, mortal sporting combat. No, you don't. You try and produce a better paper. But the other thing is, I mean, first of all, I thought that was a disastrous PR mistake because it makes it look as though he's just back for the fun of it all. But not necessarily to emblazon his loyalty and his honour to Liverpool. It's just like, well, I'm back in the Premier League. I'm going to see my Premier League mates. But the other disastrous PR image last night, Mike, was him leaving the game before it had finished at the end, right? Coming out of his seat, going up the hallway in the director's box, and taking young Flanagan, the Liverpool fullback, and was it Lallana, the guy who signed from Southampton with him, and all of a sudden the whole of the stadium is focused on the director's box. Balotelli appears to be leaving, bored with the game or something, or maybe I'm being very unkind. Maybe
it wasn't a great game
it's time for him to go or whatever.
He was maybe sitting there thinking, perhaps I should have signed for somebody else because Liverpool don't look as good as I thought they were.
Well, in that case, then that's a disaster from word one. If from the minute go. I mean, I think it's a disaster anyway because the guy is so dilettante. I mean, he's so unpredictable. He's
dilettante.
He's so unable, in my view, to give the feeling of total commitment to a cause. Even at Manchester City. Even at AC Milan,
again, he's a bit like
his mind is all over the place.
I mean, he's very focused on himself. He's less focused on the team than he perhaps should be, and that's why I think there's a bit of a similarity. When things start to go wrong, he starts to blame everybody else.
I saw Gary Neville. No, not like me.
You're a bit like that.
No, I'm not.
When things go wrong, you start blaming everybody else.
Rubbish. I don't blame anybody else at all. I take full responsibility for all my actions.
Well, what about this picture
because I'm confident about
this picture that we've just put out? We've had a picture taken by producer Dave to show that actually you are smaller than me. There's something very odd going on in the picture. You appear
because I'm the same height as you.
No, you're not anywhere near the same height.
That's what you don't like.
No, you're not anywhere near the same height.
Have you put that picture out, or have you doctored it again?
No, I haven't doctored it.
Right, put it out now, I insist.
You look as if you're kind of rising like a salmon. And in fact, Emma, our tech op behind the glass there, told me, because we did it back to back, that while the picture was being taken, you were pushing yourself up on your heels more and more.
Who said that?
As Emma did behind the glass. She spotted you doing it.
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Well, she saw you doing it.
That poor girl doesn't know what she's talking about. She needs her eyes examining, seriously.
I don't think she does.
That didn't
Here's
happen
one from
at all.
FFDU, one of our friends down in Australia. He says, certainly Mr. Parry wins on width.
Yes.
Flavion says, wow, is Parry really that short?
No.
And here's one from Michael who says, I think Mike Parry should start standing on his head, then maybe the blood will get to his brain and we might get some sense finally.
Well, the point is, because I'm standing during this show anyway, that means that my posture and my gait was more impressive than yours, because you've been crushed up in your seat for the last couple of hours.
Many people looking at the picture are saying it looks as though Porky's on his tiptoes.
No.
It's very odd. You're kind of pushing your head up as well.
No. All I'm doing is standing up straight, and I stand up straight to make sure that my lungs are working properly and I can breathe properly.
I don't think your brain's working properly.
No, of course it is. And that's it. What did you think about old Lord Attenborough passing away?
Very sad.
Very sad indeed.
Although apparently he wasn't able to speak really properly since he had the stroke about 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, also, I think he became very dismayed at being confined to a wheelchair because it's so restrictive in your movements. He was such an active fellow.
Yeah.
I saw him.
He was a massive Chelsea fan, and they're going to have a moment's sign. They're going to wear black armbands, I think, for him at the Chelsea game.
He was on the board of directors for 6 years. He's life president of the club.
Yeah.
And in fact, the last Chelsea-Everton game I went to, when I was sitting in the directors' box, I saw him there in his wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he was. I mean, he was revered by everybody, but a bit of a vegetative figure.
Amazing figure, wasn't he? In film.
But do you know the most interesting? I mean, I've read all the obituaries on him,
Yeah.
because I do that, mate.
I
That's
know.
what I do.
I know.
You know, I have an appreciation of great men, you know
Yes.
what I mean, and great people
You
who do great
I
things.
knew you'd want to talk about Sir Richard Attenborough.
Well, whatever. And guess what I think is the most fascinating fact that I've read about Richard Attenborough? Well, lots of fascinating facts, but the most fascinating one is that he and his wife, whose name was Sylvia Sim, I believe, okay?
I remember her, yeah.
You remember her?
She was an actress as well, wasn't
not
she?
Sims, Sylvia Sim,
Okay.
S-I-M, yeah. They were both, right, together, and don't think they were even married at the time, in the original opening production of The Mousetrap in London's West
Really?
End. How about that?
That is interesting.
Because that's the longest running stage
And is
show
that, what,
in the history of the
65
world.
years ago or something like
That
that?
was 52, I think.
Yeah.
So, how
Even
long
longer ago than that.
Yeah, that's
well, you're
right,
the
yeah,
one that's
yeah.
a genius at mental arithmetic.
Well, I am. 52 till now is 52 plus 50.
62, isn't it?
Is 62. It's
Thank you.
62.
I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
there before
yeah.
you did.
No, you didn't. I was just double checking my facts. And
The most interesting fact that I learned
yeah.
from looking at some of the stuff that was said about him was that Jurassic Park is the biggest grossing film of all time.
I didn't know
the
that.
first Jurassic Park.
I thought Titanic was.
Yeah, I thought it was too. But apparently it was Jurassic Park.
20th Century Fox's Titanic held that record by a
according to
million
what
miles.
I read, it's Jurassic Park. And when he made that film, when he made Gandhi, I think it was, he mortgaged his house, he did all sorts of things, and then
yeah,
he got
to get it on the
he
screen.
got the 8 Oscars. But had it not been for his determination, it would have never been made.
Yeah, and guess how many extras he had to use in Gandhi?
Well, I've heard 300, and I've heard 300,000. I've heard 1 million.
Well, the figure I read was 400,000
Right.
to replicate Gandhi's funeral
Right.
and the mourners at it. Why would you need 400,000 extras? Surely, with the way you can use computer technology on screens these days,
Well, I think the
you'd
CGI
you'd only need about a couple of thousand and
Yeah.
just repick the image.
Yeah, well, what CGI does now, I think perhaps when Gandhi was made, they couldn't do. I
Right.
think they maybe didn't have that kind of technology.
To tell you once, when I was in Libya and we were all made to go to a Gaddafi rally, and it was so hilarious because this huge square called Green Square in the middle of Tripoli,
Yeah.
and it's called like Freedom Square,
Yeah.
Green Square because it's painted
Probably
green.
changed now, isn't it? Now that Gaddafi's no longer there.
Yeah, I should imagine it has, yeah. But what they do is they round up about 200 people, because there's nobody on the streets in Libya. The best way to keep out of trouble is to keep off the streets,
Yeah.
you know. Unless you get arrested and tortured, you know, just for a bit of a laugh. And, no, seriously.
It's the way you tell them.
So they round a few people up and they put them there. And then they make them all jump up and down and start cheering, you know,
They
long
didn't
live
make you do
Gaddafi.
that, presumably.
Sorry?
They didn't make you
no,
do
we
that.
didn't do that, no. Long live Gaddafi. But it's so hilarious because behind all these people jumping around and cheering are soldiers on their knees with guns,
Right.
you know, rifles pointed into the back of the cheering crowd.
Right,
and
it's
if they
amazing,
stop
isn't it?
cheering, they get shot. And all they do is they have a camera angle which looks up from the ground up to the, you know, exalted faces of the cheering crowds. And then they just spin it, like, so to make out that it's all the way around the square. You know, it's,
Well, I
it's
think
the
in the-
propaganda of totalitarianism. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Going back to Gandhi, I think in those days they literally had to film. You know what
Yeah.
they filmed was
Huge
what they got.
crowds.
There wasn't
Yeah.
something. You know that they didn't
Yeah.
make movies in
I'm-
sort of studios.
I'm sure you're probably right. And wasn't it amazing that after doing that, he then went back to be an actor in
Yeah.
Jurassic Park?
That's right.
You know, from being a director, from being an award-winning director. Can you imagine that? I heard him talking, by the way, in which he said that although he was very happy to have been credited with everything that he did for Gandhi and getting the Oscars and all that kind of stuff, he said, of course, it was easy for me because all I was doing was telling a real story, a true story. The real genius in cinematic arts and sciences is Steven Spielberg because of the way he invented E.T.,
Yeah.
which, of course, wasn't based on fact, as far as we know.
I don't think it was based on fact. I think you could say that pretty clearly.
No, you can't. How do you know he hadn't had a revelation about an extraterrestrial...
Well, if there is an extraterrestrial,
yeah.
I don't think he looks like E.T. Let's put it that way.
Well, how do you know? We haven't seen one.
Well, it wouldn't look like E.T. They're
Well,
ridiculous.
what would it look like then? What would it look like?
I mean,
What would it
probably
look
look like you.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't look like anything because we don't know. We've never seen an extraterrestrial.
Well, I'm pretty
it could
sure it's not gonna look
for
like
all we
ET.
know, For all we know, extraterrestrials might come to this Earth in the shape of a washing machine, and you know, well, how do you know? You just don't know.
I don't. If
You've
you've
no
got a
idea.
washing machine, check it out. It could be an alien.
I didn't say that. I said you just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know a lot, do you? This is Talk Sport.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lying down on the couch.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. Do have a look at the two mics, I should say, the new Twitter feed that we've got, where we will be advertising not only tickets for our live show, which is on September the 5th.
How are sales of
if you're
tickets
in London?
going?
I think they're going all right, actually.
Well, I get lots of messages.
There's lots of people who have been tweeting saying they bought
them.
tickets, and so we're hoping to have a great night. That will be on a Friday night.
That's good.
And we're hoping to do a few more as well once that one gets
certainly
underway.
are.
Lots of people noticing the picture, because I've sent out this picture, because the profile picture on at the two mics shows me to be clearly about 3 to 4 inches taller than Mike Parry, which I've not doctored.
Well, the picture we've just taken in this very studio, taken independently by one of our producers, Mr. Levine, senior producer on this show, shows us to be
executive producer,
shows us to be exactly the same height.
Well, let me tell you this. Some people are saying that you're clearly standing on your tiptoes.
How can they tell? They can't see my tiptoes. They can't see my toes, feet.
Dan says this. Put a couple of skis on Porky. He looks like he's doing a ski jump in his tiptoes. Does he have a booster seat in his Merc? And Porky's cheating in that pic, says MR13.
No, I'm not.
Mr. 13. Standing on his tiptoes, absolutely. And Shrew says this. Avatar is the highest grossing film. Titanic is second. And Jurassic Park is 15th. Well, to be honest, I'm talking about something that I read in an obituary. It didn't qualify whether, because there are so many different ways of measuring these things.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was in the world or whether it was in Britain or what, but certainly, Jurassic Park was the highest grossing movie at some point of something.
When I said to you, 400,000 or 1 million extras used for the Gandhi funeral, you said, well, they worked that out by the time they got to Gladiator. What happened in Gladiator?
Well, I'm told by our man who knows these things behind the glass that they used like sort of cotton buds to replicate the number of people inside the gladiatorial.
What, do they paint faces on these cotton buds?
I guess they just projected faces on them in the CGI way that they can do later. But so the
CGI, what's that?
CGI is computer generated
images,
yeah. And so what they can now do is they can put create, like you say, you can create one person and just multiply it by 1 million.
Yeah.
And suddenly you've got a crowd scene of 1 million.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Imagine if they were all you.
Cotton buds. Well, they all look the same, wouldn't they? Cotton buds. I mean, I find that very. Well, anyway, there you go. But that's the way things go. Good old.
It was for aerial shots looking down, apparently. So when you've got, instead of having to fill a massive coliseum,
right,
you just use these cotton buds.
Right. Okay. Can we have some more responses, please, to you? From you folks out there to the picture. Please have a look at it, because it does prove the point that the portrait picture that Mr. Graham has put onto our joint Twitter account, which is
that I haven't read to you.
At the two mics.
At the two mics. There's plenty here.
Has been doctored.
There's plenty of text as well coming in. David
try
says
and make me look like a midget.
Well, apparently you don't have to try very hard. At TS Extra Time, David says this on the text, 81089. As Porky is of similar height to Bernie Eccleston and knows all about Formula One, will he be taking over from Bernie when he finally packs it in? Well, he says, as always, a tremendous show.
Well, I wouldn't mind if I could have his salary, please. About 60 million a year.
Yeah, really. Here's another one. A, Mr. Parry is a midget. B, how can he so casually call you old fatso when he is clearly winning in the width department? What? Also, given that he is shorter and fatter than you, he is much more unhealthy.
Outrage. Absolute outrage. Listen, what about poor old Andy Murray suffering from cramp?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Andy Murray.
I don't know how he got through that game.
We were talking about Stephen Gerrard earlier, and he seemed to be fine in the first two sets. But the thing that troubles me about Andy Murray, right, is that, yes, he finally won a major. He won the US Open, and then he kind of followed that up by winning the Olympics and then winning Wimbledon. It was great. And all of that stuff seemed to be changing. And then suddenly gets rid of Ivan Lendl, and he's getting all his old problems back again. Yeah. And here he is suddenly. I mean, I would have thought, if you're a top athlete in the peak of your form, and we're just watching Maria Sharapova here about to slaughter Kirilenko. Looks like fantastic. She's going to serve 5-0 up in the second set.
The further Marie Sharapova goes in the tournament, the better the tournament is, believe me.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Andy Murray seems to be getting all of his old problems back, like his fitness levels, his problems with his back, his problems with his leg. And, I mean, I don't really think if you are a top athlete, and I know it's a bit hot there, and it's a lack of salt that causes cramp, he shouldn't be getting cramp.
Well, he should take salt tablets, shouldn't he?
Well, they must be able to combat cramp. I mean,
funny enough,
it's not a massive problem, is it?
Funny enough, some expert that I was watching after that game finished said that cramp is actually a combination of physical debility and mental debility, because it's stress and pressure sometimes can translate itself physically into
He
cramp.
shouldn't. I mean, in the early rounds of the US Open, a tournament that he's won, he shouldn't be feeling that much
Well,
stress.
you'd have thought so. Do you ever get cramp?
No, I never had it.
I mean,
I've never had cramp in my life.
Oh.
I think once when I was a teenager, I woke up once in bed and my leg was kind of cramped. But that's about the only time I can ever remember it happening.
I get it in bed sometimes terribly. I wake up and my leg.
Well, why do you get it then?
I don't know, but my leg is bent in two, and the pain down the back of my leg is horrendous. I mean, you
can't do anything, can you?
No, you feel like chopping your leg off. It's that painful. You know what I mean?
You have to walk on it, don't you?
Hey?
Do you have to get up and walk on it?
Well, you can't walk on it. You can't put your weight in it. What you have to do is you have to slowly try and massage it back into life.
Yeah,
you know?
What if you can't reach the bit that's cramped?
Well, you can because you get cramp in your calf.
In your toes, you get it, don't you?
No, you don't get it in your toes. No, you get it in your calf.
Yeah.
And I've got huge calf muscles because I've done so much walking over the years. You know what I mean? And so,
surely you wouldn't get it then.
Well, yeah, I'm susceptible to it. But also, if you do a lot of walking, you lose a lot of your salt, you see, because perspiration, all that kind of stuff. So you come back home.
You eat a lot of salty foods, don't you?
Well, I try to eat a packet of peanuts a day because the oils in the peanuts
It's not good for you.
No, it does. It oils the joints of my bones and keeps them.
Did you see my concoction at the weekend? I made a fantastic stew, an Arabian stew.
No, I didn't see it. No,
you didn't. I put it out on social media.
Hey, listen, I'll talk about that in a minute. Just for a minute.
Sorry, it's another story about me.
No.
Let's talk some more about you.
No,
and what you think about Andy Murray. Let's talk some more about you.
Well, hang on. Did you see Boris Becker after the game?
No.
Talking?
I didn't.
Boris Becker has now turned into a bloke who looks like a Bavarian
He's put a bit of weight on, hasn't he?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He looks like the sort of bloke you'd see wandering around.
I love Boris Becker.
Yeah, I do as well. Wandering around the Black Forest with a gun under his arm, and
a couple of pheasants.
Yeah, a couple of pheasants and a hawk on his shoulder or something like that. It really does. He's got the goatee beard, and you can imagine him having a hat with a feather in and all that kind of stuff. But I don't like Boris as a tennis coach. I like him as a TV analyst.
Yes.
I think he's witty and
he's tremendous.
Erudite.
Him and McEnroe are the best two, aren't they?
Yeah, McEnroe's great. I saw McEnroe again in that, and his hair's now completely white.
Is it?
Snowy white.
A bit
honestly,
like yours.
McEnroe. Well, yes, but mine's by design. I rinse mine this colour because I want it to be this colour.
You make it this colour?
Yeah, I do.
Well, how about your beard? Why is that white then?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Your beard is white?
No, it's not.
I've just sent out 2 pictures of you. People will be able to see that it is white.
No, it's salt and pepper colour.
In fact, David in
it
Essex
comes out
says
white
this.
on a picture.
Will Porky be working with Snow White again this Christmas? Hi-ho.
That's very, very funny.
I think it's very astute.
Yeah, very astute.
How can you... you don't colour your hair, and if you did, why would you colour it white?
No, I do. I wash it in stuff that keeps it the colour it is now.
What, bleach?
No, not bleach.
You wash it in?
No.
I don't believe you.
Well, I don't care whether you believe me or not. I'm telling you, that's what happens.
All right,
okay?
well, I tell you what, if you show me the stuff that you use to turn your hair
I'm not going
white,
to show you.
I will do as a stunt for the show that we're about to do, the live show.
Yeah.
I'll wash my hair and make it white as well.
No, we don't want that. That's a gimmick, and that will people will then be pointing at you and laughing at you rather than listening to what we have to say.
I see.
Now, you wanted to tell me about this exotic meal that you made. So come on,
because
tell
I
me.
got a new cookbook for my birthday.
A new cookbook?
Yeah, it was my birthday, of course, earlier this month, which you failed to note as normal.
I think you were away at the time.
Yeah, I was away.
And I did send out a note to all our followers.
You told me
saying please send MG best birthday wishes.
No, but you told me before I left you when we physically said goodbye to each other that you were arranging something for me in the place that I was at.
I did.
Which you obviously didn't bother doing.
Well, I didn't know exactly where you were, you see. And
well, you didn't take any steps to find out.
Well, in the end, I thought I didn't want to make so much of a fuss. I thought it was a family occasion. You're there with your children, the mother of your children, and I thought, well...
Yeah, well, fair enough. Anyway, so my sister bought me this very nice Eastern Mediterranean cookbook.
Sister who lives in America?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
What she do?
I've
She
only got
sent
one
it
sister.
by post or something?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
Did she?
Amazing, isn't it?
Well, all the way from America?
Yeah, all the way from America. They have post. Have you not heard of it?
Yeah, but I mean, how ridiculous to send I mean, there's millions of cookbooks on sale in this country. Why did you send you...
Well, I mean, for all I know, she ordered it from Amazon and had them send it from here. I don't know how she did it, but, I didn't ring her up and say, thanks very much for sending me a book. Yeah. Incredible, that you would go to such an extent as posting me a present.
Well,
why wouldn't she? She's a very generous woman.
Okay, well, that's good, yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
it's a sort of Middle Eastern recipes, and so I made this thing called Arabian stew. And
sounds like,
it's what they eat in Syria, apparently. Yeah. It's what they eat in Syria, and it was beautiful. It was aubergines, chickpeas, tomatoes, a little bit of allspice.
Can't stand chickpeas.
You can't stand chickpeas?
Yeah.
Why not? They're one of the healthiest things you can eat.
They're tasteless.
Have you never had hummus?
Hummus is even more tasteless.
It's not tasteless, it's lovely.
Hummus is dreadful. I went on a plane somewhere once and they offered me hummus and I didn't know what it was. So I said, okay, I'll have a bit of that. and it was like eating paste. It's like
well, it's chickpea paste.
That's what I mean. It was
But
like
it's very tasty.
oh, it was dreadful. Do you know what it reminded me of?
I might bring some. We'll get Dave to bring in some hummus.
What's that stuff you put in walls that got holes in them? Polyfiller. It reminded me of polyfiller. Honestly,
have you ever eaten polyfiller?
No.
Well, how do you know what it tastes like?
Well, it looked. It had the same consistency.
Consistency.
It looked like
constituency is a politician's area.
I said,
here's some hummus here. Look, see, he's ever ready with it. Would you like to say some on the air?
No, I don't.
Caramelised onion hummus.
Oh no,
that won't taste like polyfiller.
But I mean, look at that. Doesn't it look like polyfiller to you?
No, it looks like hummus.
Oh, caramelised onion hummus. Look at it.
It looks tremendous.
You know what it looks like porridge.
Yeah, well, why don't you taste it?
No, I'm not going to taste it. I told you I was on this aeroplane. They gave it me. I couldn't stand it, and I sent it back and said, "Give me something else." You want to take a picture of me?
What sort of aeroplane gave you hummus?
Well, I don't know. Probably I think it was Israel Airlines or whatever they're called. El Al. That's
right. Just shut my phone down. Sorry? Obviously there's only 3 ugly pictures you can take a day on this phone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that one's not worked.
Why have we got a piece of pita bread in there?
Well, because Dave wanted you to have some pita bread with your hummus.
Well, I'm not going to eat the hummus, and it's very nice of Dave to offer, but, he's got his bit of bread here, he's got his hummus, and I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to sort of ruin his dinner, so I'm not going to touch any of that, okay?
Okay, well, I might have some in a little
while. I don't want to
while.
infect it, or whatever it's called.
Right.
Contaminate
now,
it.
Coming up on Thursday night,
yes,
we've got lots and lots of suggestions for quiz questions for you. Because we do a quiz, of course, and we're here for the whole 5 hours.
Yeah.
What I was going to suggest was, I mean, some people have suggested a quiz on driving, because we were talking about driving tonight.
If you want.
So you can either be quizzed on the highway code, if you wish.
Yes.
Or you can be quizzed on mental arithmetic.
Yes.
Which you might like. Lots of people are always saying we should quiz you on Everton, but I don't really want to do that.
No.
There isn't really any point in that.
No, exactly. Well, I tell you what,
Should we do mental arithmetic?
No, you can do the highway code if you want.
The highway code?
I've observed the highway code for a good number of years. I haven't had a speeding ticket for 10 years.
I can't believe that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I had one of these daft situations where I had to go to the speed class, you know what I mean? Yeah, but I fell out with the bloke in the speed class because at the time there was intense speculation that they were going to raise the speed limit from 70 to 80 on motorways. So I objected to being there. So what am I doing here? I said I was only doing 77 miles an hour. Right. That's not even the new speed limit. He said, well, they haven't brought it in yet. I said, well, they should, and you should be aware of that.
Broke the law, though.
Well, no, but the point is what this guy couldn't take was this. I had a Jaguar at the time, and I said, my car's so safe that it should go at 90 miles an hour. I said the rules for 70 miles an hour were brought in when they drove bone shakers, sort of thing that you would have had as a kid and that sort of thing.
I had an Austin Cambridge as a child.
My first car was a Vauxhall Viva, and that was a bit of a bone shaker compared to modern cars, and no wonder it was 70 miles an hour. But now cars should be allowed to go at least 90 miles an hour, and if they did, because I've researched this properly, the economy of this country would improve by 1% because we'd all be getting to where we're working and doing things faster, and that would help. That's why the Germans are such a wealthy country. No speed limit on a lot of the autobahns.
You finished?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
He has. He'll be back on Thursday night for 5 hours of the 2 mics.